Well, here we are, and I need to talk to you a little bit about that test that's coming up. We have no school on Monday, so our first test is going to be on Wednesday for those of you in Wednesday lab, and that will be on Wednesday following Labor Day, not tomorrow. This is the first, not the second, but on the 9th for Wednesday. And then it will be the following Monday, the Monday after Labor Day for the rest of you, for those of you in Monday lab. On the test, I promise I'll write the ballast formula and the weight shift formula, so you don't need to memorize those. The rest of those things you do need to memorize. How many pounds per gallon of oil, how many pounds per gallon of fuel, what does an FAA standard adult weigh. There are going to be 15 multiple choice questions on this test, and those multiple choice test questions, about 1/3 of them will be taken from the FAA test questions we went over last time. And there will be 3 calculations that are going to be worth 18 points each, and these will include a calculation from the alterations that we're going to go over today, a question from a weighing that we're going to go over today. Both of those will be from an FAA test question, and there will be an adverse CG check that will be something that I have made myself, and I'm going to tell you right now it's going to be on a small aircraft with 2 seats that are not at the same CG. You'll have to do an adverse loading check on that. On each of these problems, I'm going to give you a blank sheet of paper, and you need to create your own tables. So you need to be ready to get that done. You need to be ready to just simply start from scratch and make these things happen. They will not be multiple choice on the calculations, just like they're not going to be multiple choice on the assignment that you have for today. Now, this particular video, I don't expect you to watch this entire video. Many of you are going to look at this video and you're going to go, yeah, I don't need to watch that. That's fine. Pull it to whatever questions you're having trouble with. In fact, I recommend you try the questions first, see what questions you can handle and which questions you can't handle, pull it to the ones you're having trouble with, and watch those. If you've already figured out how to do the question, you don't need to watch me do this again. You just need to answer all the questions and hand those in. This is more about you getting ready for that test than anything else at this point. So I am going to jump in on these questions to get started. All right. Our first question, we're beginning at 39, and again, these are arbitrarily numbered because I just did it this way. An aircraft with an empty weight of 2,100 pounds and an empty weight CG is altered. And we're going to see this question pop up like 4 times with slight variations, and I'm only going to answer it 1 time, except for the one that has a really big variation. I'm also, while I'm doing this, I want you to know that I am going to be working with Microsoft Excel. So let me get a new book open, File, New, Blank Workbook. And I kind of recommend that people try and do the same thing if you have access to Microsoft Excel. I know not all of you do. Not all of you know how to do this, but kind of try and follow along, and I'll try and show you how to do this. This is question 39. And on question 39, we have an empty weight of our aircraft. I'm just going to call that EW for empty weight. And our empty weight is 2,100 pounds. And it is at 32.5, and we're going to kind of try and keep track of all of that. Now, we can probably zoom in so that everybody can see this better. Let's zoom to about double that size. That should give me enough room to work my problem. And over here, we're going to put everything else. Now, after our empty weight, we need to take a look at this. We have 2 18-pound passenger seats, and this is a spot where your command of the English language is important, because these passenger seats, there are 2 separate ones of them, and they are 18 pounds each. And I can either put 2 lines on there, or what I prefer to do is lump the 2 18-pound seats together into a 36-pound seat, because they're located at the same spot, 73 inches. This, of course, is our weight, this is our arm, and this one is going to be our moment. Past the passenger seat, we have structural modifications. I'm going to call that SM because I don't want to spend forever. That happens at 77, and it weighs 17 pounds. And then we have radio equipment. And I missed the seat belt. I'm going to call it SB for seat belt. It weighs 25 pounds, and it is installed at 74.5. And if anybody was paying attention, you'll notice that the 36-pound seats were removed, weren't they? And I put that they were added. So we need to put that as a minus 36 pounds for that. All right, back to our seat belt. The last thing we have is our radio equipment, and our radio equipment is added, and it's weighing 35 pounds, and it's put in at 95. Now what we're going to do is we are going to do all the math, and this is where the spreadsheet shines. You do have to know how to do it. If you're going to tell it to calculate something, you hit the equal button first. That means I'm going to calculate this cell. And then you can just highlight whatever cell, and we're going to hit the multiply button, which is the asterisk, and we're going to click on the next cell, C2 and D2. And it even shows up in color so we know what that is. And since that's what we want, we're going to hit enter. And it calculates the moment for us. Now, leaving our cursor on this cell, I'm going to reach my mouse over and I'm going to grab the little handle on the bottom and I'm going to pull that formula down. What that says is I want that formula to apply to all of those boxes. And so it does all of that for me. And that's where the real beauty of this spreadsheet comes in. It does all of the formulas for us. We don't have to enter them over and over again. Now I'm going to come over and I'm going to click the sum button. And it automatically knows where all the numbers are. And it says, yep, that's good. And so it does all that math for me. I'm going to hit the sum button again. It does all that math for me. And the last thing I need to know, if I need to know what the empty weight CG is I need to know that this one is going to be equal. Again, I'm calculating. Here's the big one. Divided by on the computer is this backslash. Divided by, and there is our cell we're dividing it by, and I get 33.68. And if I look over on my choices, I see that B is my choice 33.68, and I've successfully done this problem, and it works pretty well. Now I'm ready to move on to the next problem, 40. And the next problem says I have an aircraft. I'm going to go ahead and put 40 down here because I want to be able to show you how we can change anything if we need to. An aircraft as loaded, okay, that's its loaded weight, weighs 4,954 pounds at a CG, let's bring those down a little bit. Control X, Control V, there we are. Give us a little space to work with over here. And it is at a CG of 30.5. All right, we're doing the same thing we've done before. The CG range is 32 inches and is between 32 and 42.1. And they want to know about the ballast arm on this particular one. Okay, so this is not the same kind of table problem that we've got before. We're going to have to figure this one out a little bit differently. They want to know about the ballast arm, and I've never done one of these on a spreadsheet before, so this one might take me a little bit to figure out. I normally do these up on the board, and I'm really good at that, but I don't have a board here at home, and I'm not at school. So we're going to figure this out here. I do know that if I'm at 30.5, okay, and my forward CG limit is 32.0, what I need to move my CG, you can see right across here, I need to move backwards 1.5 inches. So let's go ahead and write that in. CG move 1.5. All right, I got to have the CG move 1.5 inches or I'm not going to be able to make this thing work. Now I've got to get my ballast formula, and I'm going to cheat and pull my ballast formula up right across here. There's my ballast formula. It's my aircraft weight. So I'm going to go ahead and make this come in across here. My ballast formula, I'm going to need my aircraft weight, which is right here in this cell. I'm going to need my CG change, which is right here in this cell. I'm going to need my ballast arm. I probably should be putting all of these over here. CG move, Control X. We're going to put them over here and make it nice and neat. Okay, my CG move, my ballast arm is at 162. It said that in the problem. Let's go back to the problem again for just a moment. My ballast arm is at 162, and my new CG location is 32.0 because that's as close as I can get. That's one of the things they're going to want to ask us about is the arm of new CG, 32.0. And now I'm ready to get my formula. And I'm just going to come over and put it in this cell over here. I don't really need that 30.5 because it needs to know the CG change. But I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put equals. And now I need my aircraft weight times my CG change. And my aircraft weight is right here. Times my CG change is right here. And now that amount is going to get divided by my arm of my ballast, which is right here, minus my arm of my new CG, which is right here. Close those parentheses, and that gives me my answer of 57.1615. Now, I'm going to come back over here to my question. Is 57.1615. That is one of my choices, and that's a good sign when I'm doing an FAA test question if my calculation comes out correctly. It doesn't always mean it's going to work. Now let me talk one more instant to you about how you're going to report your answers when you're working on the homework. When you're working on the homework, do the answers to the same number of decimal places as the choices on the FAA problem, and you'll be good. All right, so that's got us ready for our next problem, which is 41. All right, over on 41, we have an aircraft, and this aircraft, as weighed, the total empty weight, new line, Don, we're going to do this same as we've done it before. The empty weight is 5,862 pounds, and, oh, careful, look what they did over here. They put a moment of 885,957. They didn't tell us a CG, they just told us a moment. And so we have to be careful and put it in the right column. All right, now they said when the aircraft was weighed, there was 20 pounds of potable water, PW, potable water, and that 20 pounds is coming off, right? Because potable water is not part of the empty aircraft. So we take 20 pounds of potable water off of our aircraft, and it's at 84. And then they say we have 23 pounds of hydraulic fluid where a tank is located at 101 inches. What's the empty weight of the aircraft? And a lot of you are expecting me to come over here and put hydraulic fluid minus 23 pounds to take it off and putting it at 101. But the FAA is sneaky here. They're really sneaky because the water, potable water, is not part of the empty aircraft, but hydraulic fluid is part of the empty aircraft. And that bit about hydraulic fluid has nothing to do with the answer whatsoever. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about the FAA being sneaky here in just a second. Right now, we're going to go ahead and multiply, and then we are going to sum, and we are going to sum. Actually, let's not sum yet. Let's go ahead and put our hydraulic fluid over here. And right now, it's 0 and 0 and 0. All right, and then we're going to come over here, and we're going to pull that formula down, which still makes it 0, and then we're going to sum it out. Okay, so we're not using the hydraulic fluid in this answer because the hydraulic fluid shouldn't show up in this answer. But I want to show you how sneaky the FAA is, and that's why I'm doing that. 151.365, and bam, there's my answer right over there. C is my answer on this particular question. Of course, on the problems, you're just doing the numbers. But let's say that we were going to be tricked by the FAA and put in minus 23 on my hydraulic fluid, because we're taking it off, and put it at 101, and bam, we get this 151.565, and that 151.565, if I had that, I'd probably go, what do I do with that? Okay, I'm going to guess it's that 6, and I'm going to say that 6 is probably the one that was the closest, and I'm going to get the wrong answer completely. Because hydraulic fluid is part of the empty aircraft, I don't take it off, and we're just going to zero that column out. And we're ready to move on to 42. All right, in 42, this one's a little weird because it doesn't involve numbers that we're used to. It's the same kind of problem, but no numbers that we're used to. And we have 2 boxes that weigh 10 pounds and 5 pounds, and they're placed in the aircraft so that their distance after the CG are 4 feet and 2 feet respectively. How far forward of the CG should a third box weighing 20 pounds be placed so the CG will not be changed? Now, we can do this problem lots of different ways, but let's just go ahead and use this same table that we've been using before. Okay, so we have our item over here, and I'm going to call it box 1, and I'm going to call it box 2. Okay, box 1 and box 2 are going to give us, they each have a weight, and box 1 is at 10 pounds, and box 2 is at 5 pounds. And they each have an arm. Box 1 is at 4 feet, and box 2 is at 2 feet. And then we're going to go ahead and multiply the 2 columns, same as we've done before. And what we're going to find is that when we put these onto our empty aircraft, they are going to cause a moment shift. The moment of these 2 boxes is 50 pounds. Okay, and these 50 pounds, it doesn't tell us which side of the datum they're on, so we don't know if it's a plus 50 or a minus 50, but what we know is that we have one more box, and this one more box is going to be placed in such a way that it has to have the same but opposite direction of its moment. Okay, and to get the same but opposite direction of its moment, we have several different ways to get at that. We need it to be 50 over here, so what I can do is I can say 50, and our box weight is 20, so I can take my 50 equals my 50 divided by my 20, and I see 2.5 will give me the same 50. Well, if I put this 20-pound box 2.5 at the opposite side of the CG, 2.5 feet, that will negate the changes of the first side. So our box 3 has to be set 2.5 feet away from the CG on the opposite side so that the CG is not changed. And that question is a little hard to show how to answer it without spending a long time on it. But that's one way to answer it. And that's probably the way that I would choose to come up with the answer. 43 is the exact same question that we had right at the very beginning with just slightly different numbers installed. So we're not going to bother to do 43. We're going to move on to 44. All right, and then 44 is almost the same problem we had in 43, but in 44, they threw a little wrinkle into there, and that is that they didn't ask us what's the new CG. They asked us what the CG, how far the CG moves. So we're going to go ahead and do 44, even though it's pretty much the same problem, because it's got a few little twists on it. All right, so we have an empty weight of an aircraft, not an SW, but an EW, empty weight of our aircraft at 2,886 pounds, and it gives us a moment of 101. Again, be careful with this one, because they gave us a moment instead of giving us an empty weight, or a CG. Now, if I have a moment and I have a weight, I can find what the CG is, and I'm going to go ahead and find that. I'm going to take this number divided by that number to know that my CG on my empty weight is 35.23. And I'm actually going to need to know that because I need to know what the original CG is to know how far it moves when I calculate the new CG down at the bottom. So this is my old CG, and I had to calculate it. Now I'm going to move forward. I'm going to remove seat. I'm going to call it RS to remind myself that it's got to be removed. And just to tell you, I've got to go back and check on my ones that I entered because I may have made a mistake on those. I might not have removed those on that. I might have put them in as positive numbers, and I just have to check the math and make sure I got that right. Okay, I've got to remove the seats, and these are 15 pounds each for a total of minus 30 because there are 2 of them, and they are at 71. And after removing the seats, I'm going to install a cabinet. And the installed cabinet is 97 pounds. That's a heavy cabinet at 71. And then I am going to install, I'm going to call it B for belt. And it is 20 pounds. And it's going in at 71. And then I am going to install radio equipment, IR. And my install on my radio equipment is going to be 30 pounds, and it is at 94. And now this becomes a pretty normal problem, where I come over here and I hit my equal button, and I multiply out my cells, and then I pull my cells down, and I sum everything up, and I sum everything up, and I get my new CG, 36.85. But now I need to know how much did my CG move. And my CG move is going to be equal to my new CG minus my old CG. Okay, and in this case, if my new CG is bigger than my old CG, I'm going to get a positive number, and my positive number says my CG is moving aft, and it's 1.62, and A is my choice, 1.62 inches aft of the original empty weight CG. And that brings me up to 45. 45, I have, oops, went one too far. On 45, I got to get myself some more cells to work with. Okay, I have a 40-pound generator. We're going to call it generator. Okay, it is 40 pounds, and it applies 1,400 inch-pounds to my axis, and an inch-pound is a moment. So this goes in the moment column, and that's all I have. From here, I have to go ahead and calculate what its CG is, because they want to know where it's located. So all I'm going to do is take this one divided by this one, and I've got its CG, and it's 35 inches, and it is a plus 35. So B is my answer, and I'm ready to move on to 46. 46. I'm not actually going to do this because this one should have been in yesterday's or last session. In a balance computation of an aircraft, wow, it didn't like me having that. 46. In a balance computation of an aircraft from which an item located after the datum was removed, use. All right, so it's aft of the datum. After the datum means that the arm is positive, right? So actually, I already know the answer is A because it's the only one with a positive arm. Okay, but let's go ahead and keep checking. It was removed. That means it's a negative weight. So, yep, we're still good. And a negative weight times a positive arm gives me a negative moment. And so we are good. It's actually A is the correct answer, and we're ready to go to 47 instead of 46. On 47, blip, 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 here we are. Let's see if it leaves it for me. Come on. 47. Oh, this one's a complicated one. The datum is forward of the main gear center point at 30.24 inches. The actual distance between the tail gear and the main gear is 360.26 inches. It gives me the amount on each scale, and then it gives me items to take off the airplane. Do we take lavatory water off the airplane? Yes, water is never part of the empty airplane. So we're going to be taking minus 34 pounds at plus 352. Then it gives us hydraulic fluid. And is hydraulic fluid coming off the airplane? The tricky FAA. No, the hydraulic fluid is already part of the empty weight of the airplane, so we don't remove the hydraulic fluid. And then we come to removable ballast. And this is where the real heart of this question is. Do we take off a removable ballast when we weigh the aircraft? Yes. What ballast do we not take off when we remove an aircraft? We don't take off permanent ballast. And since they didn't say permanent ballast, this one's coming off. Minus 146 pounds at 380 inches. And so now we've got to do our math. But our math becomes a little more tricky yet because they didn't tell us the distance. They didn't tell us the distance from the datum to the main gear. They told us the distance, the tail gear. They told us the distance the tail gear was behind the main gear. And since they told us the main gear was already behind the datum, we're actually going to have to add these two to get where the tail gear is. The best way to do this is draw yourself a diagram. Unfortunately, I don't have a good diagram here, but I'm going to warn you that this is a really good question to study. Hint, 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 as was the last one. All right, the last big one we worked where the CG moved. Again, hint, hint, hint. That's as far as I can go with those. I can only say hint 3 times or it's getting excessive. So we're going to work our question number 47, and we are going to start with our left main and our right main and our nose wheel. And then we are going to remove water. And we are going to, I'm going to go ahead and put remove hydraulic fluid in there, even though we're going to zero it out. And we are going to put remove ballast. And that's what we're going to be putting in this problem. Now, our left main is 9770. And our right main is 9980. This is a big aircraft, and since it's a tail dragger, it's like a DC-3 or something like that we don't fly anymore. Our nose, actually I put nose wheel, it should be our tail wheel, right? Our tail wheel is 1970, and now we got to fill in our locations on those. Okay, our mains are at 30.24 because it says that is how far after the datum they are. But our tail is at 30.24 plus 360.26. So I'm going to put equals 30.24 plus 360.26. And that gives us the location of our tail wheel. And that's one of the tricks that they played. So we got like 3 tricks going on this single problem. And we need to make sure we understand it because I said hint, hint, hint. Hint, hint, hint. Oh, wait. I broke my own rule. All right. Remove the weight. Okay. Remove the water. We have minus 34 pounds of water, and it is located at 352 inches. This is a big girl we're working on. Removing the hydraulic fluid, but we're not really going to do it, so I'm zeroing it out. And removing the ballast, minus 146, and the ballast is way back there at 380 inches. Now we're going to go ahead and sum up our columns. There's our moment. Pull our moments down. Sum our moments up. Sum our weights up. And get our new CG. Click. Divided by click. And our CG is 60.31. And 60.31 is one of our choices at B, and that is a good clue. Now, just for fun, if we hadn't removed if we had accidentally removed the hydraulic fluid, would we have gotten the right answer? Minus 8. 60.37. Nope, they didn't give us a right answer on that one. So they weren't as tricky as they could have been. All right, so this gives us all of our correct answers on problem 47, and we are going to move on to our next problem, problem number 48. All right, problem 48 is a weighing without near as many tricks on it. And when we do our weighing without near as many tricks on it, we find that the empty aircraft weight has the main gear, which are combined. They just gave us one number, 3540. And they gave us an arm, 195.5, not near as tricky as last time. And then they gave us a nose gear, and they told us that the nose gear has an arm of 83.5. And, oops, the arm goes here, doesn't it? 83.5. What's the weight on the nose gear? It is 2322. And all we have to do is our math. There's our moment from the mains. There's our moment from the nose. There's our total moment. There's our total weight. And here is our total CG. And 151.136, 151.1 is a choice. A is our answer. And we are ready for 49. Cruising right along. 49 is the exact same problem as the first one we did, so we're going to skip 49. And that gets us ready for 50. And 50, ooh, I like 50. And 50, we have an alteration to our aircraft. We took a B model engine that weighs 175 pounds and replaced it with a D model engine that weighs 185 pounds at minus 62 inch, at a minus 62 inch station. And then it's a pretty straightforward alteration. So we're going to start with our aircraft empty weight. Before the alteration, it was 998, and the CG was 13.48. All right, now we're going to remove the A engine, and we are going to add the B engine. And removing the A engine is a negative 175, and adding the B is a positive 185, and both of those happen at minus 62. Minus 62. All right, and that lets us go. What is our moment over here? Our moment is the multiplication of these two numbers, which we can use on all of them, and we can sum it all up. We can sum it all up. Notice that we added 10 pounds to our plane, which is normal if we add a 10-pound heavier engine. We are going to take our moment divided by our weight, and we get 12.73, and that is answer C. And that gives us only one left to go. 51. Clear us a little more space. I want 51 down here. And I'm going to show you why I want those in just a second, because I am basically a lazy person who likes to do things the easy way. All right, so find the empty weight CG location for the following tricycle gear aircraft. Each main wheel weighs 753 pounds. Be careful, they are tricky. Each main wheel weighs 753 pounds. So if I do an LM and an RM, both of those are 753 pounds. Now, I could also have just done an MG main gear, and I could have doubled that and put 1,506 pounds. Either way is going to give me the correct answer, as long as I see that each, and watch out for those each. All right, my nose wheel weighs 22 pounds. That is one very, very light nose wheel for how heavy this aircraft is. And then we got to find our arms. The distance between the nose wheel and the main wheels is 87.5 inches, but that doesn't tell me anything about the datum and anything about the station, so I've got to be really careful with that number. They did tell me the nose wheel location is 9.875 inches from the datum. So 9.875 inches from the datum. My mains are 87.5 inches aft of the nose, so I'm going to get my nose wheel plus 87.5 to get my location of my right main, and my left main is the same as my right main. Oops, that doesn't work. I pulled both of those over, and we're going to delete that. I'm just going to put the same number in, 97.375. What it did when I pulled that formula is instead of adding the 87.5 to my 9.875, it added it to the other one, and that makes a mistake. All right, we're going to go ahead now and, oh, we got one problem, don't we? Because they gave us this whole scenario. This will give us the basic aircraft, but now we have a gallon of hydraulic fluid at minus 21 inches included in the weight scale. And if there's a gallon of hydraulic fluid at minus 21 inches, hydraulic fluid, and we want to remove the hydraulic fluid, right? removing the hydraulic fluid, which is at 21 inches, at minus 21 inches. How much does that hydraulic fluid weigh? They're tricky FAA. We don't take hydraulic fluid off. We leave the hydraulic fluid alone. All right, so they tried to trick us one more time, but we didn't let them trick us one more time. We went ahead and got our totals. And then we took this number divided by this number, and we got 96.1152 and 96. Ooh, this one doesn't round quite to the same amount. Ooh, bad FAA, but this is clearly the answer. C is clearly the answer. Okay, and we are ready to go. That should take care of all of our numbers. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you why I am going through this process, and one of the reasons why I like doing these on the spreadsheet. I'm going to leave my spreadsheet up over here, and over here I am going to show you some of the back end. So let me take this window and put it over here instead. I'm going to show you some of the back end of this. Where's my spreadsheet? There it is. Of D2L. And we are going to come over here to the top, if it lets me, and I am going to go to Content. And on Content, I am going to go to Online Lecture. You should be familiar with this. And on Online Lecture, we're going to go down to Today, which is FAA Test Questions, Weight and Balance Calculations. And I'm going to click on that sucker, if it lets me. And I am going to preview this quiz. There it is. And we are going to start the quiz. And let's just pick question. Wow. They absolutely refused to give me the numbers. Sorry about that. This is the first time I've tried that. Let's look at the one after 43 because we know that's 44. Okay, so I've got the one after 43 is sitting here. Question 43 is omitted. The next one is the one after that, 43. So question 5 is 44. And I'm going to come back over here. I'll go change that so that you guys can see the question numbers. On question 44, this is the FAA test question, and this is the question that you have to answer. An aircraft had an empty weight of 2814. Wait, the FAA said 2886. Yeah, it changed it. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to change 2814. All right, 2814. With a moment of 101.405.04. That's different too. 101.405.4. And that changed what our CG was because I did all the math. It's going to update everything for me. All I've got to do is just play with it. Okay, now remove the seats. Remove 2 passenger seats that are 26 pounds each. So I want minus 52. And they are located at 74. And then install a cabinet that is 90 pounds at 72. And then install a seat and belt that is 20 pounds. That stayed the same at 72. I'll bet it doesn't next time. And then install a radio that is 29 pounds. We lost a pound on our radio, but it went an inch further back. And we put 95. And everything is updated for me because I did this in here. But my answer is different. It was 1.62, and now it's 1.27. And that 1.27 is what I want to make sure that I'm capable of answering. And I'm pretty sure I did the key wrong on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and put that 1.27 in. And let's see if it lets me submit. Submit the quiz. 9 unanswered questions. Submit the quiz. And, oh, that's nice. It shows you what you did. Okay, and take a look. It says I missed that question, and like I said, I missed the answer key. I got to go back and fix that answer key, and also let you see the question numbers. But that should let you do the job, and I'm going to stop recording on here and get this uploaded so you guys can get busy. You have all week. You have we have until Tuesday to get this done. You have as many tries as you need. Please spend your time and make sure you have these down. You need to know how to calculate these weight and balance problems, and